I want to look at that, John. Show me that to me. I don't want to big out mine. Can I see that?
In fact, we're going on vacation at the beach, and I gotta come back, so I can attend the meeting together before we go back.
So at Forest Park.
No, next month, at our meeting time. We go down there every year for a sandwich.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. It is now 4:02, a little late. Before I start, we want to try to make this meeting quick, to the point, so we can go visit the Botanical Garden, St. Helens Botanical Garden. So the meeting's been called to order. So number 2, approval of minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All those in favor? Okay, topics from the floor. Christine.
Yes, Christine Hopkins.
You're on the agenda later.
Yeah, oh, later? Oh, okay. I'm actually official, sorry.
Okay,
Never mind.
Doug, are you ready? Counselor's report, number 4. Mr.
I can go on.
Mr. Morton, are you prepared?
There we go. I only have one issue, and that comes from my report on, as I read through the minutes, on my report that Mr. Topaz was referring to in the newspaper about me suggesting in my report that he doesn't matter on our council. And that's quite the opposite of anything that I've ever said. One of the things that we were talking about was the approval or the recommendations that the Parks Commission gave forwarded to the council, and then the council basically deliberated. And when we deliberated, like I reported, Mr. Topaz was very outspoken on many issues of the children's park in Godfrey Park. The updates on that nature amenities that we were going to get. And as you know, Jen and Sue, I think, and Matt, in a combination to the council, gave us those conceptual plans, which means that they can be altered and they can change and whatever, depending on materials and costs and that kind of thing. But John Brewington brought up a point and asked me when I came back to the commission, to you folks, and reported that Mr. Topaz has voted in a different way, that it was a 4-to-1 vote, and he basically was voted against it because he wanted to open the canyon where the water, where the stormwater outfall is in that canyon, to children. And he felt that opening the canyon was conducive to imagination, creativity, and exploration. And his point was well taken that way, but the council voted against it. And then John asked if there was any liability concerns brought up during that deliberation, and I said yes. I brought up safety concerns for children. I didn't think that canyon was appropriate to open up for those kinds of activities. And especially when we talked about a children's park, about having mothers down there to be able to oversee 2-year-olds, toddlers, that kind of thing in that park. I thought opening that canyon would just be a huge liability. So I made the point that I made the comment that when I was explaining to John that yes, there was safety concerns and there would be liabilities, and I said, but the counselor didn't care about that. He cared more about the creativity, the exploration, and the imagination of what that canyon could give to the kids. So that's where I need to either clarify in those minutes of how what I meant to say, because it made the editorial newspaper, that I didn't care about Mr. Topaz's, or Mr. Topaz didn't seem to account for anything. So anyway, I just wanted to make certain and clear the air on that. And Mr. Topaz, if you feel differently, I apologize for that, because I think you are a credible person on our council. I value your comments, but you make certain that you know that you are one vote, not all 5 votes. And we voted 4-1 to accept the Parks Commission's recommendation to go forward on the children's park, the conceptual plans. So that's it. I mean, I just want to put out any kind of drama that's been brought up in the newspaper, and I don't think the newspaper is an appropriate place to play that drama out. I think it's more important to be here and apologize if there was any misunderstandings, and if there was, I do. But that's all I have. That's all I have, is if there's any comments about what I just said.
Well, the only comment I have is that we don't all agree here. Sometimes we don't agree at all. But, we need to be respectful of each other. And I think as far as the Parks Commission, we've done that very well. And hopefully the city you guys have got that worked out.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
If we don't, we got to have disagreements, or else things just, yeah. Okay. Counselor Morton, are you through?
That's all I wanted to say.
That's all you're going to say.
Yep.
Jenny, are you next? Is this you? I think so, yeah. Okay, new business, 5A, 2019 bill letter of support. Did I get the sign? Okay.
So I think in your packet there was a site plan included, Sherry. Is that true? Okay. So if you want to reference that. So last year I came to the Parks Commission. You were just the Parks Commission last year. This year I think it holds even more weight because you're the Parks and Trails Commission. So the build grant, last year we applied. It's a federal transportation grant that would fund the first phase of transportation improvements on the veneer site. So the first phase basically goes to the Tualatin Street right-of-way. And then, so it's basically the first extension of First Street to Tualatin, extension of the Strand to where it cuts over, and then it'll also fund the at water's edge improvement, so like the boardwalk along the water's edge and then the trail. So I'm asking for the Parks and Trails Commission's support, and I've drafted a letter which is in your application. Obviously this is a huge project. It's about $12 million that we're asking for. A significant portion is going to the at water's edge piece. A much smaller portion is going for the street extension. Are there questions? There's a site plan in your packet. Is that the First Street and Strand Street extension to connect? Is that an actual open street that cars can go around? Yeah, so it's festival, so I wasn't sure. Yeah, so no, that's a good question. So it's a 60-foot right of way. So it's got sidewalks on both sides, landscape strips, sharrows, parking. Yeah, it's a full, complete street.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Jenny, on that, I wasn't totally paying attention, I think, but the Festival Street there, so can you go both ways through there?
Yeah.
That's a two-way
It's
street?
a two-way. Yeah, it's intended to be able to close off the street, and the parallel or diagonal parking spaces would be used as booth spaces, and then
Okay.
it would just be pedestrians only when we have like a market or something down there. And that was a suggestion from the framework plan, which was the plan that guides development of the site. So we're pulling from previously adopted plans.
Is this red line here about the end of phase one?
Yes, yeah. And where it says development block, that's where we anticipate the first phase of private development.
Does any of this have to do with expanding Columbia Park?
So the build grant is transportation focused, but the city does hope that that's one of the first portions of public investment in the site is that expansion. But yeah, that leaves room for it for sure. This grant is due next Monday, so I'm a nervous wreck until then. Sorry, this is like kind of haphazard. I was literally working on the application before I ran down here.
Maybe we get together Monday morning and talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I will feel like I will feel like I can breathe on Tuesday. Hopefully.
How long is the decision process? Like, what's the decision made?
Yeah, last year, it was December. It was right around the holidays. I remember my family was asking when I was visiting. I was like, I don't know yet. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good memory.
Did we get feedback on last year?
We did, yeah. So last year we were told that the project readiness was one of the criterias, and that was where we were scored as a little bit of a riskier project. And that's because of the potential state and federal permitting at the water's edge. We hadn't furthered that enough. And so this year we're coming back with initiating some of that permitting process. So we feel like we've addressed our weaknesses from last application. That being said, it's all about who else applies. Yeah. So who knows? Hopefully, 2 projects in Oregon were funded last year. We were the next one. So we were right on that cutoff. Oh. Yeah. So, maybe getting those 2 out of the way, we'll be next in line. You never really know.
What were the other 2 projects, do you know?
One was in Coos Bay, and it was a rail project. Okay. And I don't want to misspeak about the other one, but I believe it was an industrial rail project as well. The Trump administration's focus is on rural communities, so I think that helps us. At least half of the projects have to go to rural designated communities, and their definition is 200,000 or less. Which is, I think we're very rural. There needs to be its own category. But that I think helps us. There is less money this time around too. So last year they had over $1 billion. This year I think they're at $750 million to give away. Yeah. So, yeah.
What do you want us to do, Jenny?
If you're okay with the letter as written in the packet, direct your chair to sign for signature, or just say yeah.
Yep.
It's been done. She's got the letter, Jenny.
You've already signed it. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Send me good vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5B, yes, it's taken care of. Carmen, I guess this is you, Carmen. 5B,
yeah.
review report to council.
I don't have it done yet, but it'll be done, and I'll email it out to you guys by the end of this weekend, and we'll be doing the report next Wednesday, the
Yeah.
work session.
And what time? I wrote it down, like 1 o'clock or something like that?
Yeah.
1 o'clock? Okay, good. Okay, 5C, that's me. Park report. Okay, you guys have got maps there of St. Helens Botanical Gardens. And if you look on page 40 of your book, it talks about park classifications. Pocket parks, urban parks, neighborhood parks, community parks, regional parks, special use parks, and then there's one called nature parks. The nature parks are lands set aside for preservation of significant natural resources, remnant landscape, which this is, open space, visual aesthetics, buffering. They may preserve or protect environmental sensitive areas such as wildlife habitats, streams, creeks, etc., etc. Nature parks may vary in size. Nature park access to natural areas may be limited to these sites, which often includes wetlands, steep hillsides, both it's in that, you'll find out later, or other similar spaces. Some natural parks may be managed secondarily to provide passive recreational opportunities, which I think I'd call that this. A lot of people, I won't say a lot, but people like to just wander and walk through there. These sites may contain trails, interpretive displays, viewpoints, and seating areas. And we have 2 nature parks in St. Helens. We have Nob Hill Nature Park, and we have the Columbia Botanical Gardens. As far as the Friends of St. Helens Botanical Gardens, they met about 3 weeks ago or so. And some of the things we talked about doing was, one, cleaning the trails. Maybe we can get the city to go out and do some weed eating out there for an hour or two. Okay, well, I have a weed eater. I guess I could make that. Pick up the garbage and then invasive things. I think Christine probably wants to do more things down the line, so it's more like a botanical gardens. So what this park is, if you look at the map there, there's basically 2 parts to the park. When you enter off of 6th Street, you walk down into a gully, and there's wetlands down there. And I call that the lower park. And then there's a hill where it was a rock quarry up above, and they dump rocks over the side there. And so up above, you've got the upper part, and it's just an old quarry. And there's just rock piles all over the place.
Is that Boulder Trail?
Boulder Trail, I'll talk to you about Boulder Trail.
That's not Boulder Trail.
No. No, Boulder Trail is backed by the big boulders that you will find. You've never been to this park, John. You have a wonderful experience.
Keep talking, I better read it.
You have a wonderful experience. So anyway, some things, there's basically 2 other things that I think that we should maybe do. One is I call the curb appeal is not very great there. There's almost no curb appeal. So the 2 things I would like to see there is, one, a parking area made with gravel, so people can actually see it. And then a kiosk, kind of like there is at Nob Hill Park, so people say, oh, that's the entrance to the park. And, we could have a map and that sort of thing. After we get through with the meeting, we'll proceed down there, and I'll take you guys through the park. You have a map there, and I'll talk a little bit about it when we go through there.
Is this the boundary we currently have?
Yes, and it's only like let me go down here, John. It's 3.2. It's 3.2 acres. So
What about this portion up here?
that's not on city property.
Oh.
And I'll talk about that. If you keep going back on that trail, it runs into Great Cliffs. There is some property on the east side of that Rich Bailey and
Del Kersley.
Durrell Kersey would like to sell. I know Doug has mentioned that it would be nice if the city could purchase that, and I have no idea, or maybe they could get a deal on it. But that's a separate issue. But that trail goes all the way through to, it just keeps on going through it. And most of the people, when they walk through there, they go through the wetland trail, and then they just kind of keep on going. The upper part, not as many people go to. And I'll walk you through the trails and stuff. I've like the Boulder Trail, John, back in the late 70s when there was a boys club at St. Helens, we went down and moved boulders so you wouldn't have to climb over boulders to get through there.
Oh.
We did that one day as a project back in the late 70s. So, I've been going down to this park for years. So
A lot of people were getting stoned in the late 70s.
Probably.
That's what had nothing to do with boulders.
they were probably some of them getting stoned down there too. I would think so. And we'll go down there and visit that when we're through. Okay. Moving on. Number 6, old business. Christine Hopkins, Botanical Gardens.
Yes, hello. Christine Hopkins. Just checking back. So we had our first meeting. There was, I think, 8 of us there. I should have been more prepared, but I didn't sleep at all last night. We really just kind of focused on structure of the committee, and who our stakeholders are. And we also discussed becoming a nonprofit officially so that we can accept donations. And that's really kind of what we talked about. And we talked about what can we do without any money, and that was, let's start with Ivy. which is probably the largest. So that's really where our focus is going to go, is where there's no money needed while I'm doing the paper stuff for the corporate formation and things like that. But yeah, that's really what we talked about. What can we do until we actually have a budget? I wanted, or Jerry invited our committee to come and do the tour with you guys today of the garden, because not everybody on the committee had been in there either. In the meantime, I went and visited the Leach Botanical Gardens in Portland, Oregon, which is much larger, of course, than this botanical garden, but it's right in the middle of a neighborhood, just like this particular one. They actually have Johnson Creek. We have a wetland. So it's a little different in that, but it's, it's kind of narrow and tight, and it has a lot of different types of stair structure and things like that. So I took a ton of pictures for ideas, and then I have been encouraging my committee to go with me either this Saturday or next Saturday, rather than have an official meeting, and go to the Leach Botanical Gardens, because they're going to come see this, and then we can go see one that has gotten farther down the road. They just actually purchased a property that is next to the botanical garden, and that's going to be their upland prairie now, where they're going to do like a big pollinator garden and things like that. So they are still constructing that park, and it just keeps growing. But that's where we're at. We're going to hopefully meet. I wanted to meet this month, but again, everybody's been so busy. It's, 4th of July and all. But if not everybody can go at one time, I want to encourage our committee to, even on their own, go to the Leach Botanical Garden, just for a nice comparison to see how they have it structured. And then we'll meet again, and then hopefully I'll have some more paperwork and stuff for my committee to go over and approve. And then I can give you guys another update. But at this point, I'm not sure when our next meeting's going to be, just because of the trying to get it set up for the tour. So
in our last meeting, I think what we had talked about was that we were all for moving forward with the Friends of.
yes,
group.
and we are the Friends
And
Up.
from there, I guess it would be discussed about actually filing paperwork and doing the nonprofit. So I don't know that I just don't know. Are we able to? Is that legally possible? Given it's I don't know if this is our grounds to be able to
Okay.
say that you can start a nonprofit for a
I can interject for just a moment, and I think if we really want to know the answer to that, we invite our finance director, Matt Brown, to the council, and he can answer that or deal with that
Yeah, it
question and how
happens
it
with
all can work.
Friends of Leach Botanical Garden, Friends of Powell Butte. I've contacted a lot of Friends organizations to
And
find out.
so when I briefly mentioned that to Matt, if he would make himself available, he said, oh, without a doubt. And he said also, they said that it's a great idea, but working through the city is probably the most appropriate. And I don't know what that all entails, but
Yeah.
he'll be here
Oh, good.
to
Yeah,
sometime in the future, either the next meeting or the meeting
Okay.
after
and his name's Matt.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I contacted Friends of Powell Butte, because that is Portland Parks. It's
Yeah.
owned by the city, just kind of like the same way this is. And they're a nonprofit organization just for that park. But they do depend on donations and the park budget. They have a much larger park budget. So they have a lot more money to work with.
Oh, really?
Whereas our organization,
Not anymore. Not
yeah,
after this
yeah.
last
Well,
cut.
so ours would be a lot more, hands-on, community, connection, that kind of
A
stuff.
great
So,
idea.
but yeah,
My other question would be is whatever, since now we're possibly up to 3 friends groups, over a year ago, didn't we give you guys some rough drafts of what we thought a friends group should be?
Totally.
Each friends group diagnosing what it should be. I was wondering where that went.
It went to the council, and I reported on what you basically gave us from from that point, and I think it's described as a loosely knit organization that deals with maintenance issues and recommendations for new amenities in the.
There was some stuff in there too, you know, talking about how the city, you know, if they were gonna do something, they should talk to the friends group before doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And that type of thing. So I was just
Yeah,
wondering
that's
what
good to
happened to
know.
that, so we could possibly try to get that out to other people that are trying to start friends groups, so they would have that as kind of a
Yeah,
guideline
yeah.
of what
That's
we're considering friends groups.
That's really good point. And I think when Matt gets here financially, that's a good starting point. Then we can hammer any kinds of other issues out with our city administrator / manager.
Because I don't even know whatever happened to the copy of that one, if it's, is it still in existence somewhere in the city?
As a policy, no.
Well, I mean, we gave you a rough draft of it.
The council never, I think, really voted it and accepted it as a document. So yes, it's still around. It's out there.
Okay,
Why don't we put that on the agenda next time and,
see if we can find.
yeah, let's maybe hammer that out a little bit. Can you kind of head that up?
Yeah, I'll see if I can.
Get with Doug.
Talk
and
to John
Nicole
and we'll talk to Matt, make certain that Matt can get here.
Yeah, that's a
That'd
good
be nice.
idea, you know.
Okay, so that we're kind of all more uniform.
Yeah, and
Rather than each one being slightly different.
yeah, that would be nice to know how the city, so that we can be formally named appropriately. So let's make sure of that. But our next meeting, when we do get together, we're going to revisit our mission statement, you know, and what, you know, we see for our committee. And we're going to also reevaluate the structure that I just put out, just in case anybody has any ideas or thoughts, like how many members, you know, and subcommittees, things like that. So that's kind of still where we're working a lot on, is the formal formation. But as August gets closer, it's going to be getting to the point where we can start actually doing some restoration stuff, some removal. But of course, then that would give us all winter long, and for some areas, and then we can revisit those in the spring and see if there is a need for any planting or anything. But I need to kind of divide the park up so that we can do it in chunks, and then that way we can reevaluate each of those areas. So that's what we're going to do today, kind of, is reevaluate like the areas. And in the Leach Botanical Garden, they have them named, like the wet area or the wet forest or the dry forest and the upland meadow and things like that. And so that's a good identifier as well, at least for me, so that I know what I'm talking about.
So this is a long time coming, and it's really a great idea because it addresses the issue of what everyone's been asking, is how do we take monetary funds and direct it to one park or one need or whatever. And this opens the door to that, because, as you know, the parks are funded by the general fund. Everything goes into the general fund. Traffic tickets from library fines in other departments, as well as any money that's generated from the parks, and in terms of permits and those kinds of things to use the shelters and or any other reservations. So this is really interesting to me because it addresses that. And so thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Christine, before we move on? Okay, next, old business, 6B. Distribution, or redisputed. I can't even say that right. Redistribute. Yeah, redistribute. Parks list, and that's this, Sherry?
Suggestion. Jake has 6th Street Field, McCormick Park, except for the dog parks, which Elisa does. Would you like to divide off the skate park and the BMX track and give them to Paul, since he's the most knowledgeable on those particular areas?
That's too logical.
Sorry.
I think it's a good idea.
You okay with that,
You
Paul?
want it?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's.
And then Stan had Walnut Tree and Heine Human. Of course, Stan's gone, and I don't know if all of you heard, but Ben resigned today.
Okay.
So if you want to wait till you get a new person and get those two to them.
Lynn, what do you have?
I have Dalton right now, but I gotta say that, I've been weeding Walnut Tree and my husband mows the lawn with 2 other people and
At Walnut?
so, Walnut Tree.
You want Walnut Tree? Okay.
So, I'm going to take that,
That's a yes?
All right.
yeah.
That's a yes.
Should probably have Columbia View in there, so
I don't think anyone has that.
the one on the river right here, which is
I know. Jerry, does someone have Civic Drive?
Who has that one now?
not on the list.
Oh, I see.
It's not even on the list, is it?
Yeah. Sherry,
No,
John
it's
brought up
not
a
on
point.
here.
He's a little more observant than
So there's
than me.
there's a park that is not on there, and that's Civic Pride Park.
And Columbia View?
Columbia View is John, but it was suggested that we don't
right
even
there,
bother doing that because of the future development that's going to happen.
Yeah, they could wait for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You still should know what's going on in Columbia View, this is City Park. There's still stuff going on there.
Civic Pride Park, John, you want to take Civic Pride?
Civic Pride's by the senior center there.
No, that's one by the Heine Humans. I mean, excuse me, the one downtown by the Red Apple. Isn't that Civic?
Behind the pool.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I know, yeah. I thought we
I could
No.
take that
turned that
one.
over to
No,
the.
no,
That's still ours.
absolutely
have
did not
one.
do that, John. It
We
was,
wanted to do
we
that.
were
Didn't we want to do
Adam, no,
We tried, but
no.
we didn't want it.
I only have one, so I'll
Is that
take
it? They
Civic
didn't want
Pride.
anything to do with it?
You want
Yeah,
that?
I'll take Civic Pride. I
Sherry?
only have
Okay.
Godfrey, so.
Did you get Carmen?
Mhm.
Okay. Are all the parks covered now?
Tiny Human isn't, but we can wait till our new person.
New person,
Comes.
give that to them. Okay, let's move on.
Should we reach out to the last applicant we had for parks? Do we know if he joined any other commission?
I don't know. I'll find out.
Okay.
But they'll have to advertise again.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's not on another commission.
No.
You'll reach out to him, Doug?
Somebody should.
I will.
Okay, please do that. Yeah, he'd be very good, in my opinion. Okay? Okay, page 2, discussion items. Discussion items is stuff that I guess we've gone over before. Anything anyone wants to discuss?
BMX track rebuild start next week.
So what's gonna happen there, Paul?
Just rebuilding the track. We've got a bunch of dirt down there. I don't know if anybody's seen all the dirt piled up down there over the last month. We got about 1,100 yards of dirt to toss around there for somebody. Hopefully you can use it all. That's what he said he needed.
So the guy's still donating his time and all that?
Still donating his time. I'm still trying to work out the equipment side of things. I've got a couple of things that I'm juggling, and I would imagine that the city probably has a policy that nobody else can use their equipment, I would imagine, so I hadn't asked, but I would. Well, he's looking for, he needs a front loader, a skid steer, and a smooth drum, rubber wheel roller. I've got the,
Stuff we don't have.
well, it's, but yeah, a loader I'm sure you guys probably have. So that would make my life easy. I've got a couple things that I'm working on to.
You're talking, you're trying to get some donations from some,
Because I can't rent a front loader from Bell and Road, so. So that means I have to have it shipped out here from Portland on a little boy truck, which is kind of a little pricey.
is there some people around here that might donate you a front loader? They might actually run it?
Well, this guy's gotta run the equipment, so.
Okay.
Anyways,
Are you done, Paul? Okay.
that's it. So hopefully the track will be up and running again, by the end of next week, so think about it.
Okay. Good luck, by the way. Other business.
I'd like to move the recess to the park.
Okay, John says recess to the park. So if you don't know how to get there, drive down Columbia Boulevard till you get to 6th Street. Head north on 6th Street, that direction, and just stay on it till you get to the Botanical Gardens. It's on the right, eventually.
Park is the first part of the
Right across from the old house, yeah.
pull into the Elks parking lot.
Okay, what I'd ask you to do when you come, bring your color-coded map, please. That way you won't get lost, John. Who has never been there before? I'm just curious. Who's not been to the St. Helens Botanical Gardens before?
It's been years, but
Long time? You been there? Oh gosh. Lynn, you been there?
Yeah, with you.
So there is a map. There is a map on the table too that Jenny provided. The green outline is the
Yeah,
city-owned
I
property.
think I passed one of those out to
Okay.
everyone too. At least I meant to.
All right.
Can I say one other quick thing?
Got a lot of,
Pardon?
Can I say one other quick thing?
I think, are we already
We're
adjourned?
adjourned. Okay.
I
Are we
just wait
adjourned?
till next time, Howie.
There's more of these if anybody wants them in the bag, which is the new Parks Brochure that we just gave
It's
out.
right in
at,
that
Oh,
right there.
yeah. Okay.
Citizens Day in the Park.
Yeah. Oh, not the botanical gardens map, but the.
Oh, do I have to say meeting adjourned? Oh,
Well, we're not really, we adjourn and then we
Not a
reconvene.
meeting,
We reconvene.
so it's just a field trip? Okay, Howard had something he wanted to say. We haven't adjourned the meeting yet, so we still got something here. Howard?
Oh, I was just talking about that we got a new Parks Brochure that came out for the first time, and if anybody wants some, there's some in this bag over there.
Okay. Meeting adjourned?
Perfect.
Jerry, what time, convening over there?
In
Now?
5 minutes. We're just gonna drive over there.
Everybody will be there.
Okay, Doug, 10 minutes.
All right.
I'm glad I brought a car.
All right, I'll see you there.
Yeah, Sherry, I understand why the city wants to do the backboard check.